Why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? Go into the history of anti-Semitism. We've done it before. But why do they hate us? Because we're committed to God, because we're committed to learning, because we're committed to the idea of our children being better, wiser, better educated, happier and healthier than we are. Why do they hate us? And why do they keep trying to destroy us? It didn't end in the Holocaust. I don't know how many of you are aware that 2 days ago, the House Foreign Relations Committee of the House of Representatives put out a tweet to mark Yom HaShoah, where they did not even mention Jews, and they spelled Holocaust with a little h. They can't even honor our dead without making it about something else. No big surprise, given that the vice chairman of the committee in charge of those kind of issues is a known anti-Semite who's made hundreds of comments and never been censured. You guys know I keep politics off the pulpit. I don't care if she was Republican. I don't care if she was Democrat. Ilhan Omar is a nasty anti-Semite. She should be erased from our memory. Who wants all of us dead. So it didn't stop 70 years ago, and it didn't start 70 years ago. One generation after another tries to destroy us. The Assyrians, the Babylonians. One culture after another tries to destroy us. The Hellenistic Greeks. They try and destroy our bodies. They try and destroy our spirits. They try and stop us from being Jews. And I think a part of it has to do with we hold up a reflection. When we are true to Torah, we hold up a reflection of how you should live, hopefully. And at least when we know we're not, we try and do better, hopefully. But they continue. Our ancestors had to worship in private, whether it was the Marranos in Spain, whether it was the people in camps, in Auschwitz and Dachau and Treblinka, Bergen-Belsen, the pits of Babi Yar. I have a friend, Andy Stevens, and he's actually a Holocaust survivor. I think he turns 96 or 97 this month. Little short guy, beautiful silver-tipped cane. He was the head forger for the Hungarian underground. And he still has the spark. He escaped, ran out of a train. They shot him and went through his heel. He still has the sock with the heel hole. Hey, he's really delicious. That's the only word for Andy. We were once at breakfast, a bunch of people, and someone had brought a woman who was young. She was in her 40s or 50s, which for him was a child. And she had a low-cut back. Emma, this is true. She had a low-cut back shirt. We need to lift ourselves up sometimes, right? She had a low-cut back shirt. And I'm sitting next to me. He goes, I have to kiss that back. No, I can't. I have to kiss the back. No, I can't. Oh, the with it. And he reaches over and he kisses the back. We should all have that kind of passion in our 90s. Jackie Irwin, our state assembly person, asked for someone to honor, for the state assembly to honor for the Holocaust. And so I introduced her to Andy. He couldn't go up to Sacramento, so she comes down. And with her assistant, Nancy, who's in her 30s, I think. And Nancy had not a short skirt, it was like almost down to her knees. And so we're standing there, and then he goes, I like that skirt, come on over here. And think what he survived. I don't know how many of you know this. He told me the story. This I did not know until I'd read his book, Rebel with a Cause. How many of you have been to on the Danube with the boots? Okay. So there's a memorial of brass boots on the edge of the Danube behind a building, apparently. The reason is because the Germans so hated us, and it was winter and they couldn't afford ammunition. They tied 3 Jews together, shot the one in the middle, and threw them all in the cold Danube. And he washed it from the other side of the river. Why do they hate us so? For whatever the reason is, our job is still to be Jews, right? Am Yisrael Chai. People of Israel shall always live, providing that we live true to Torah, that we live true to God's commitment with us. And the good news is, Max was right. He lived to be 101. Hitler, not so nice. Now, he didn't do so well. I don't see a lot of Assyrians walking the streets today. I mean, they're people descended but from that particular part of culture. We are still standing. And we are obligated to stand. We are obligated to dance, even and especially when we don't feel like it, because we can. And there's 6.5 million just from the last century that cannot. And I'm sorry, anyone who compares anything to the Holocaust of World War II is out of their minds. Never in history has there been a concerted effort to destroy people for no financial benefit, no land benefit, no benefit other than to just destroy them. And we're still standing. And we're still dancing. And we're obligated to. Emil Fackenheim was a philosopher. It wasn't until the 1960s or 70s that we could even start to process theologically and philosophically what the Holocaust was. And a lot of different people said a lot of different things, but Fackenheim, I believe it was, had a great comment. I'm pretty sure it's Fackenheim. He said we should add to the 613 commandments a 614th commandment. And the 614th commandment is, thou shalt not let Hitler have a posthumous victory. Every time we don't teach our kids, we're letting Hitler win. Every time we don't observe Shabbat, I don't care if we're in a temple, I don't care if you're at home, I don't care if you're Shomer Shabbos, if you just light candles, or if you just pause for a moment saying, you know what, today's Shabbat, thank you, God. Every time that we avoid that, we're letting Hitler win. Every single time. Every time we disconnect from Jewish communities, we are letting Hitler win. And the 6.5 million Jews who died in vain. And every time we do an act of righteousness, an act of tzedakah, an act of goodness, we are making their deaths for the sanctification of God's name. You know, it's interesting. It's been a tough year financially for many institutions, including ours, as many of you know. But in the past 12 months, we've received over $30,000 from people who do not even live in Southern California. Michael Savage, Ian Stewart Bridges, Jonathan Bushnell, Solomon Lew, Bruce Rockowitz. People who live all over the country and even the world who have, for whatever reason, become aware that we are making sure Judaism is available to everyone. No Jew should have to make a determination. Do I educate my child Jewishly, or do I pay my car payment? You guys have a bunch of kids. And it's expensive. But none of us should ever have to make that decision, should we? No one should have to be told they can't go to high holidays because they can't afford a ticket, or be embarrassed that they have to show their tax returns for the last 2 years. And so we have people, as I said, Michael Savage up in San Francisco, Jonathan Bushnell, Ian Stewart Bridges, a number of different people. Ian's in England, Solomon's in Australia. And we received over $30,000 from just those few men. Out of our community, physically, but part of the Jewish community. So what can we do to make sure that Hitler doesn't have a posthumous victory? We can stand up. We can be counted. We can say what Moses himself said, Ivri Anochi, I am a Jew. I am tied to a Jewish community or communities. Be it Hadassah or a synagogue or a Jewish school or all of the above. With our energy, our funding, our caring, and our support. Our willingness to step up and say, I am a Jew. Deal with it, Omar. There was a Alon Omar, not just any random person Omar. I just want to make sure that was clear. Right? Deal with it, anti-Semites. We choose to observe Shabbat. We choose to express ourselves as Jews. When it's Hanukkah time, we put the menorah in the window. We're still standing. And as I've taught my children, you don't get on your knees for any human being. So they're going to continue to hate us. All we can do is shine a light on it. We can act righteously and say, hey, look, I don't have horns.
I have to say this, you just brought it up. My dad told me in the Army when he went through basic training, he was meeting people. There was one guy from the Deep South whose last name was Cutchintubby. That's all I remember was Cutchintubby. And Cutchintubby, who became his friend, was shocked that my dad didn't have horns because he had Down syndrome.
I don't know how many of you heard him. He said that his dad, when he was in boot camp, had a Southern person who was shocked that his dad didn't have horns. And it still goes on today. No, we don't make matzah with blood. Yet there are many who believe and perpetuate that myth that we do. No, it's not all about the Benjamins, other than that Benjamin and my Benjamin. Cantor Benny and my Ben. And there's some other Benjamins that are important, I know, but we need to stand up in our words and our actions, and in our prayers and in our community. That's the real key. See, Yom HaShoah is only part of the name. Yes, we need to remember the horrible things that happened, and we need to have the strength to dance on their behalf. I have a friend named Rabbi Mimi Feigelson. Mimi was actually ordained privately by Shlomo, many years ago. But Mimi lights 3 Shabbat candles, 2 Shabbat candles, and 1 for the women who died and can't light them because they died in the camps. We combat the hate with love. We combat it with actions, like the men I just spoke to you about. Messieurs Savage, Stuart Bridges, Bushnell, Rockowitz, Lou. We combat, those guys aren't, they never come to our services. They didn't been to any of our services. Actually, I think Ian and Jonathan may come once a couple years ago, high holidays, but they don't have been to our services, but they appreciate what we're doing. So we need to stand up, support Jewish communities of all sorts. We need to act, and we need to dance for those who can't. So when you're too tired to dance, and the Krakow and then Nigun starts being played, right? Then let your soul carry you, and let them hate. I had a friend years ago, a man named Samuel Valencia. He was the chief of the Yaqui Indians, a very dear friend. His grandkids call me Tio, uncle. And Samuel used to say, if no one's talking about me, I'll spread a rumor so they can start talking viciously about me. Because I gain power when they're talking about me. They're giving me free rent in their head. So let them hate. Because we're still standing, we're still dancing, and we will. That's what Am Yisrael Chai is. That's the Gevura part of Yom HaShoah that we need to remember. This is what we have to remember. It's not just the pain, it is the choice that in the midst of pain, We choose to live with passion, with joy, with fullness. Like Max said, he turned 100. Hitler was dead. He won. We need to remember the 614th commandment, thou shalt not let Hitler have a posthumous victory. And the best ways to do that are tying ourselves to other Jews, to Jewish communities. Lots of them to choose from. You don't have to come tied to a temple. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Lots of Jewish communities. There's B'nai B'rith, there's Hadassah, there's all sorts of stuff, right? We need to stand up and we need to call out anti-Semites when we see them, by name. Not as a general statement, but by name. And we need to dance. And we need to stand as Jews and say, Ivri Anochi, I am a Jew. My prayer for all of us is that we remember the Gevura part of Yom HaShoah u'Gevura, the strength part of this holiday, that we choose to be strong, passionate Jews, to live a Jewish life, to give tzedakah, to tie ourselves to communities, to know that Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel will always live, and to always, always stand as a Jew for ourselves and for those who went before us, and especially for those who died, for those who will be attacked. But we need to constantly, and my prayer is we all constantly stand in the right place and call ourselves as Jews. Amen.
Once I never could. Okay, go on. I was like, come on. You can never know what it's like. Your blood like winter freezing just like ice. There's a cold, lonely night that shines for you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind with the mask you use. Once I never could hope to win. You're starting down the road, leaving me again. Your threats were made, they're meant to cut me down. If our love was just a circus, you'd be a clown by now. Yo, I'm still standing better than I ever did. I'm looking like a true survivor and feeling like a little kid. Now I'm still standing after all this time. I'm picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. I'm still standing. You can never know what it's like. Your blood like winter freezing just like ice. It's a cold, lonely night that shines for you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind the mask you use. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did. I'm looking like a true survivor and feeling like a little kid. Don't you know I'm still standing after all this time? I'm picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. I'm still standing. Well, don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did. I'm looking like a true survivor. I'm feeling like a little kid. Well, you know, I'm still standing after all this time. I'm picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm still standing. I'm still standing.